Now we're live. Welcome to Hopeful Tribe, Jill.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Sorry, people, we had to start a little bit late because we had technical difficulties.
Yes.
You know, those happen. Those are part of life right now.
Yes.
It's a good thing we know how to cope with it, right?
I always wonder, is it technical difficulties or is it human difficulties with tech?
I think it depends.
It depends.
Sometimes one, sometimes the other. I'm trying to do this without my glasses. Hold on a second. How do I do that? Oh, yeah. Okay. There, now you can see her name. This is an old classmate of mine from CIIS.
Oh, my God.
Jill Eickmann. Has it been like 16 years?
Come on. We got to stop that. I was trying to think about it too. I was trying to remember, so I don't think you were in my cohort, right? Were you?
Well, I took classes with 3 different cohorts because I did graduate school. Yes. So
I approve.
While I was going to school, I also worked full-time as a therapist in nonprofits and raised 16 children. And so I had to do it gradually.
16 children?
Yes, you were not aware. Okay, yes.
Children. I knew there were children, but I didn't know there were 16 children.
Yes, I gave birth to 3, and so, of course, I raised them. And then people gave me 13 others, and I was happy to raise them too. So.
Wow. I'm impressed.
That's my life story. Well, this is why I have laser-like focus. Like, I used to attribute it to being an actress because you know how in acting exercises you're always, trying to hone your focus and all that, right? But then over time I realized that it got better and better, and it was actually the kids that gave me that focus.
Sure. Yeah, it's like your eyes are I'm guessing are in 16 different places, right?
Well, here's the thing. If you want to get anything done and you're a mother, you have to learn how to focus with all kinds of distractions.
Oh, totally. Yes. Oh,
you were late, right? You're a mom now, right?
Yes, I have a 4-year-old. I just have one. I just have one. I can't even imagine.
Well, they're uber distracting when they're under 6, because they're just so cute, so cute.
I just look at her sometimes like this child's perfect. Absolutely.
Right?
Perfect. And sometimes I think I have the best child. I have the best kid in the world. But other people just think their kid's the best kid in the world, right? But I don't know. I think I might have the best kid in the world.
I think we should just keep believing that. She's going to absorb that as they do when they're under 6. They just absorb everything in their environment. And so if she believes she's the best kid in the world, then she's going to be okay.
or we have a narcissist in the midst.
Yeah. You know why? Because over time, when she gets more in the world independently, she's going to get beat up a little bit. Well, at least emotionally. Hopefully nothing bad happens to your baby, but you really can't.
Mechanisms, yes.
Yeah, you can't really avoid people being mean to you. Oh, could you? If you come up with a way to keep people from being mean, let me know.
Well, healthy self-esteem,
right.
I think this is a great talking point right now because lately during the pandemic, I've been kind of thinking about my life and how I, use my gifts to better society, all of that stuff. And then also just my clinical practice, my improv practice. And I've been thinking a lot about healthy self-esteem, and I think that's why I really got into theater, why I really got into drama therapy, why I wanted to become a therapist was to help people with confidence, really
That's
share your
cool.
gift confidently and not doubt themselves, Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's why I don't think it's spoiling when we do constant affirmations with our children, because once they get out in the world, they're going to have all this counter input, right? And it might take them down a little bit. So by the time they're actually launched out in the world, they should have like a normal level of self-esteem.
Yeah, it's hard. We're in a really hard world right now, like really hard.
Ooh.
Like, woo.
And I have grandkids now, and I really have felt for them this last year, like being stuck inside for so long, not having kids to play with unless they had siblings. I mean, horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
I think it was harder for them than it was for us.
Yes.
Because we're kind of used to sitting on our butts most of the time, at least most of us.
I know. I think about like teenagers. I think that's the age group I feel the most for. Oh, yeah, because it's socialization and finding your folks to hang out with and socialize with, and creating your identity and your personality. Oh my God, so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, even though I think teenagers were already kind of used to socializing online most of the time.
Yeah.
And so they could go there.
Right.
So I did hear some horror stories from teenagers during this past year. So yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. But in case anybody's never been here before, I just want to introduce the channel, and then let's jump into the interview with Jill. We've been like catching up here talking about COVID-19 times, but let's get into the interview. So welcome, Jill, and whoever else is here to Hopeful Tribe. This is a place where you can find comfort, coaching skills, coping skills, coaching, and community anytime. I mean, I've already uploaded so many videos. You could just keep that thing rolling. Binge watch Hopeful Tribe. If you're feeling bad, just come on in. This is a safe space where you can, laugh, cry, whatever you want to do, and hang out and hopefully learn some things about how to deal with mental health and social issues that might be hard for you right now. Because this is a difficult time we're walking through, and I just wanted to make sure that the people who can't afford therapy and the people who don't believe in therapy have somewhere to go 24/7 where they can feel safe and get some comfort. So that's Hopeful Tribe. And I'm really happy you're here, Jill. Jill, like I said, is one of my classmates from graduate school, and she's amazing. I'm going to share really quick before she introduces herself. Yeah, that's Jill Eickmann, MFT. If you want to work with her, that's how you find her. And she also co-founded this amazing organization called Leela Arts. We're going to hear about that too. So she's been a little busy since we graduated. And Jill, welcome. My intention is for us to talk about the power of play, the power of improv, of course, some drama therapy, and tell us more about you. I want you to get a proper intro and an opportunity to plug any upcoming shows. And
Sure, yeah. Where should I start? I'm trying to think about it. But like I really fell in love with the art of improv in college. I was a theater major in college. And I stumbled upon an improv group. Well, I didn't stumble upon, it's kind of beautiful because my husband, who I met in college, introduced me to it.
Oh!
It's a beautiful romantic story where it was my first day of school, my freshman year, as a theater major. And he was also in the graduate program.
Oh, okay. He was in a graduate program.
as well. And it was his 6th year senior as a theater major. He switched his major like so many times, and he finally landed on theater. And so it was his first class as a theater major, and it was my first class as a theater major. And we met in the theater. So our class was like a stagecraft class where we got to do the theater that we were going to be using as theater majors. And he was wearing a shirt that said Theater Strike Force, which was the name of the improv group.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, what's that shirt? And he told me about it. He's like, oh, they meet later today. If you want to come, join me. And I went for the first day, and this amazing club. Like, it was like a club. It was also like a class or a club. You could take it as a class or a club. And the teacher was a graduate student at the time and she was a drama therapist, and she didn't know it. Like, she was really into this idea of building community through improv, allowing people to be vulnerable, take risks, find personal transformation within a form. I mean, she was a big believer in SARC. Do you know SARC? Which is like, those how to be an artist posters. Have you ever seen those?
No.
Well, SARC is actually from Berkeley. She has this of books and journals about how to be an artist. And so she was really into SARC. So she would kind of like interweave SARC philosophy. But her name's Heather Roberts. At the time, she's married now, Heather Parody. So shout out to Heather Parody if you're listening.
Hey, Heather.
Yeah. Like this improv group, I didn't realize how special it was, like it was bringing people together of all walks of life. We had people, not just theater majors in this club, like people who are engineering majors or science or math, and it was just a really beautiful community where we could all get to know each other, play together, people who had differing viewpoints, differing skills. And it was just really beautiful. So when I graduated UF, I was like, I want to do improv for a living. Like I
just want to play forever.
And Heather was such a mentor for me. And I was like, I want to do what she does, So I moved to New York, and I thought, well, maybe, I probably the traditional path is, studying at another improv training center. So I studied at Upright Citizens Brigade in New York, which is a pretty famous improv theater at the time. In the early 2000s, it was just getting started. And I heard such amazing things about it. Amy Poehler from Saturday Night Live was one of the founding members of it and was still teaching there. And so I wanted to really study there. And I loved it, but it was all comedy. And this experience that I had in college was like this spectrum of drama to comedy. It was like social justice. We would do social activist skits on campus, with different programs. And
it was so great.
Such a more holistic way of doing improv, And I was like, I like this. I like the training that I'm getting, but I'm not quite getting that same experience of community. I really enjoyed, and impact and personal transformation. So a couple months later, 9/11 happened, and I was living in New York.
Oh man, you were there.
I was there, and my husband and I were living in New York together at the time, and saw it. It was super oh God, what kind of world are we living in right now? And I just had that moment of my life matters. I don't want to just be a selfish actor. Not that actors are all selfish, but that was the thought that I had. I don't want it to be all about me, Yeah. I don't want it to be all about me and my ego and, being on stage, because I have that in me. I like that. I like attention, But I wanted to do something with my life, and I wanted to impact other people similar to how I was impacted in college with improv. So I discovered drama therapy, and so I Googled it, like we all do. I said, I know there's something like dance therapy. I know there's art therapy. I wonder if there's improv therapy or drama therapy. So I found CIIS in San Francisco and got in. I got in. Woohoo.
Yay! not
study.
an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Not
And
everybody gets it.
I know it's a pretty competitive program, and I was really thrilled. And my letter of intent, you know, that you have to write of like what you're going to do with this degree after you leave was I was like, I want to be an improv teacher. I want to be an improv teacher, director who leads from like a therapeutic approach, you know, that can really
Nice.
bring healing, transformation to people who participate in it. So that got me in, and, you know, kind of helped me have a focus when I was studying in the program, right? Of like, this is what I want. This is what I want to do, and this is how I want to take in the information to help me with that life purpose. So I'm doing it. Like, it's pretty incredible. I'm doing it. And we've created a community that at Leela, it's called Leela, which means play in Sanskrit. So we're creating.
I didn't know that. How cool. I just met a lady the other day who's learning to speak Sanskrit. And I was like, how?
Wow. Yeah. Like that was also like a real synchronistic path coming about that name. I was reading this book called Free Play by Steven Nachmanovich. It was when I was in grad school, I think, and I was reading this book, and it was all about play in different art or improv in different art forms, like in music and theater and dance, you know, and painting, visual arts. And the first paragraph of the book talked about Leela, you know, and it said richer than our word, which is play in English, right? It means divine play. So it's like the play of the cosmos, the play of creation and destruction and recreation. And then like the last line of the definition that he wrote, it's like the older we get, we lose our ability to play, right? But with Leela, we reconnect back to our authentic selves. Right.
Wow. That's so beautiful.
When we play from this like spiritual way, this connective way, and it was like, that's improv for me. Like, because improv never really, you know, the word improvisation or improv or what the popular mainstream in America thinks of as improv, which is comedy improv. I love comedy. I love to laugh. But like, it didn't quite capture what improv was for me and what I experienced in that college group. And I was like, this is it. Like, yes, Leela. And I love that it was a woman's name. That was something I was really passionate about having like more of a feminine quality to the improvisation that we teach, because so much of my post-college experience in the different improv training centers was very male dominated. You know, I was usually like the only woman in my improv classes. And I was like, what? Why is this? You know?
That's interesting.
Yeah. So a more like feminine approach to an improv training center, and to call in like more women to get involved in this art form. Yeah. So that was my long story.
I love it. It was super cool. It was amazing. And here you are, like, doing what you set out to do. And I think that's such a positive example for people, because most people don't decide while they're in college what they're going to do and then just go for it, you know?
Yeah.
That's not usually the path. So I'm really impressed.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I love it. And then you actually waited until a reasonable age to have a child too.
So I'm 40. I think I'm turning 42 in a couple days. I'm turning 42 on Thursday.
You're a baby.
You know, yeah, but I think a lot of that was my husband and I. This has not been an easy path, right? Yeah. Having an improv theater company, having an arts organization in one of the most expensive cities in the world, you know, has been, you know, a labor of love. Like, it's been super hard. We went on hiatus after 2008, after the 2008 crisis, you know, for a couple years, and we got big adult jobs and paid off our credit card debt, you know, trying to chip away at those student loans. Those were hard times, you know.
Yeah.
And just being called back to it. I was like, no, this is what we're called to do. This is what we really want to do in our life. It's hard. It's a lot of financial risk. It's a lot of like emotional toll, it's not an easy path. You know, as fun
Yeah.
as it sounds like, oh my God, you own an improv theater company. That sounds so much fun. It is. And it's a ton of risk. It's a ton of
Yes.
risk. Yeah.
Yeah. And a ton of work,
Yeah.
but you're doing it. That's
Yeah.
what's important, you know? And, you know, quite often when I've had visions of something I wanted to do, there was not a straight path there. It
Right.
took a lot of planning and preparation and maneuvering to get myself there. Like this channel, I had a dream about it 2 years ago.
Cool.
And I was like, okay, that's great, but I don't know a thing about starting a YouTube channel, so maybe I should learn that. So I took like a year because I was working full time, you know, needing to make money. So it took me about a year to learn how and get the infrastructure set up. And then COVID hit.
Oof.
And I was like, ooh, I don't really have that much money in reserves. Maybe I should get a job first. So I got a job and I was happy to do it. But I told them when I took it, I'm going to be here about a year because I have this other thing I have to get back to.
Like I got this pursuit. I've got this passion to do this thing. Like it keeps you going. Yeah.
Yeah. So I left that job after 11 months and launched Hopeful Tribe, and it's been 7 weeks now, and I've been so happy.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I was telling a friend, I told a friend of mine to check out your channel. You know, she's going through a lot in her life, and I was like, oh, you have to check this out. She's like Mr. Rogers for adults.
There you go.
It's true. I feel like when I watch her videos, it's like that same quality that Mr. Rogers has of like, you're talking directly to me, you know, you're telling me that I'm special. And like,
you are.
Yeah, adults need that. Like
we do, right? Especially right now. I feel like a lot of people who used to be stable a year ago are not so right now.
Right.
A lot of people are scared to go back out into the world. It's just hard right now.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even mention the people who are still in grief because of the people they lost.
Yeah.
You know, this is a really hard time. And I think if I had had the reserves to launch last year, it could have been a really good accompaniment to COVID-19. However, I didn't have it. So I spent the last year actually working at an emergency psychiatric facility in downtown Oakland. And it was so much fun. Okay, I know I'm odd, but I find it really rewarding working with people who are in crisis.
Wow.
And my coworkers over the years have deemed me Susie Ativan because Ativan is an anti-anxiety drug for those of you who don't know psychotropic medications. And it calms you down really quickly. And I seem to have a similar effect on people who are in crisis. So they nicknamed me Susie Ativan. And so I had a ball. I hadn't been working in crisis work in a while when the pandemic hit, but it just seemed right to just jump in and do it.
That's amazing. Well, imagine how many people are in crisis and are scrolling through YouTube right now. And
right?
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, the other thing that me and Mr. Rogers have in common is that when he was conceiving of his show, he realized, because TV was a new medium at that time, he was like, wait a minute, TV has this amazing potential to create community. Right? And now we have the internet, and I feel like the internet has amazing potential to create community. And so why aren't we using it better? Because even though, you know, it has grown many communities already, I feel like it doesn't always create positive communities where people feel comforted and nurtured you know?
Right.
Quite often the kind of communities that get born on the internet are born of anger and frustration. And I think, I get it why people are angry and frustrated. In fact, some of my videos are about social justice issues, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
But it's not what people need in order to take care of themselves so they can continue their social justice work.
Yeah, community is a huge thing, Yeah. I think like with so much of what I've done with Leela, that's been like the driving force. It's like I want to find a place where people can get creative together, and be their authentic selves. Like there's not a lot of places in our life where we can just be ourselves. And I also think a lot of people don't even know what that means. It's like, what does it truly mean to be yourself?
Right?
Yeah. So there's this really beautiful quote. There's a gentleman named Martin DeMott. He's no longer living with us right now, but he was an improv teacher and has inspired a lot of people. I have a little story about him too, which I don't know.
Tell me.
A tangent here. So while I was in that college program, I was thinking about where to move to after college, and my husband had already he graduated his graduate program, right? He was going to a new graduate program in New York. He got accepted into a graduate school at NYU. And so I was getting ready to graduate, and I was like, oh, I could go to New York and go be with my boyfriend, or I could go to Chicago where a lot of my improv friends were going, which was like the place to go for improvisers. It was like the mecca for improv at the time was in Chicago.
Right.
Like going back and forth. Which one should I do? And the teacher, Heather, that I studied with in college was working with this gentleman, Martin DeMott, in New York. And Martin DeMott was one of the instructors at the Second City in New York. So I think he was the artistic director at the time, and she was working with him. And I had like a 30-minute phone call with him. She's like, you really need to talk to Martin. He can help you. And I talked with him about kind of my passions of doing improv from like this more holistic place, not so comedy driven and, more life affirming, life changing kind of transformation space. And he's like, come study with me, Jill. Come to New York, right? This is the place for you to be. You need to come.
Cool.
And I found out about him that he had a PhD, right? And he was like a doctor. And I had in my head that he had like a PhD in psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, he's got this psychological approach. He's got this degree. A month before I moved to New York, he passed away.
No.
Yeah. And it like really shaked the improv community. He was like a really big mentor for a lot of people. And I learned later how many teachers that I studied with later actually studied underneath him. And he inspired their work. And I was like, that's why I like you, Martin DeMott, right? But I Googled him a little bit later after I had finished my graduate studies at CIIS and got my MFT, because I had this idea of like, oh, if I just go down the path that Martin went down, I'll get Martin training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's a PhD in psychology, so he did the psychological path, right? So I got my degree, I got my MFT. I was like, it's similar to Martin's path. So I was Googling him, and apparently he got an honorary PhD.
You know what? I would like somebody to give me one of those one day, because I'm done with school, but it would be nice to have a PhD.
Well, he got some school, I think it was like Columbia or something, gave him an honorary PhD for all his work that he did with and communication and like mental health and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I went through all this education to like follow this man.
You worked a lot harder than you had to. That's funny.
With him, like he has this beautiful quote, back to my little roundabout here, that he has this beautiful quote that says, like, I know I'm going to not get it correct, so definitely Google Martin DeMott and find this quote. It's a beautiful quote. But he said, we walk through life like we're on our first date, constantly worried if we're going to be approved of, We're constantly judging what we say before we even say it, during while we say it, after while we say it, what we should wear, to make sure that we're approved of. But in improv, there's only approval. I think it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful quote because, yes, that's exactly what I'm attempting to teach. And Leela is like approval. Like just being able to anybody who walks into the room and that you're playing with in an improv class or rehearsal, just to say yes to them, to fully approve of them, to approve of them as a person, as an individual, and their ideas, right? And to approve of each other, right? And when you do that, when you practice extreme approval for others, it starts to come back to yourself too. You know what I mean? You're able to experience that I approve of myself, right? And you gain confidence in your ideas, right? And also there's this beautiful power of spontaneity, right? When you say things off the cuff and you just are in the moment and you're in this creative place, playful space of spontaneity, you don't have time to judge what you're going to say. Figure out what you think other people would like you to say, right? And
I really think a lot of that comes from having to be in the present moment. When you're doing improv, all these people are spending, I don't know, thousands of dollars to learn about mindfulness and blah, 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 when they could just be doing improv because in order to do improv well, you have to be 100% present in the moment,
Yep. Like I always say, I say spontaneity is the path to authenticity.
Very nice. Very nice. And authenticity, like you were saying earlier, is so important and often ignored. It's really palpable when people are being their authentic selves. And in my long career of working with people on the streets, one of the things they often gave me as feedback was, well, you were real, so I would talk to you. I tried to see other therapists, but they just weren't real, and I couldn't connect with them. And that's the other part of authenticity, is that when we are able to be our authentic selves, that gives others permission to be their authentic selves. Warts and all. They're like, oh, so she's just flawed and she's in this position of authority. Maybe it's okay if I'm flawed, know?
Yeah. And that's another powerful tenet of improv too, is celebrating mistakes. I love it.
Exactly. Fail big.
Totally. And that was a big life-changing moment for me when I was first learning improv in my undergrad. I remember that, practicing that, what? And I was a kid that was raised by two very high-achieving perfectionist parents.
What did your parents do?
My dad was an entrepreneur for a long time. He worked in the computer business and had his own. And then the business failed. And so he decided to go back to graduate school.
It's no big deal. It's gradual.
I know. This is a theme here. And he got his PhD in business and entrepreneurship. So he was a business professor as well as an entrepreneur for a long time. I went back and forth. And then my mom is a dental hygienist. So there was a lot in my family. And I did my whole self-rev. For those of you who don't know the self-rev in drama therapy, we have this thesis that we can do where we do a theater performance about a psychological issue, a core issue that we're grappling with in our life. And mine was my smile. And I tracked it back to a lot of stuff that I dealt with as a kid about presenting and having a beautiful smile and being the happy child in the family. But those were my parents, very, very perfectionist, very high achieving. I was kind of a klutz as a kid. I would spill a lot, so I would make a lot of mistakes, and I doubted myself a lot because of this perfectionism that I felt was in my house, in my home. So that was a huge learning transformation for me in improv was like, what? I'm allowed to make mistakes here? And they're actually celebrated? Oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah. And my confidence just like bloomed because I wasn't so afraid to make mistakes. And I wasn't so afraid to be somebody that wasn't perfect and happy and smiley, you know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a similar experience when I met improv. I was like, what? Like so many paradigm shifts happened when I met improv. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm okay and I can just be me and mistakes are okay. Mistakes are good. What?
Yeah. I think improv's kind of similar to yoga in the way that it's like it's experiential. You know, it's like it helps you practice these lessons in a really and truly embodied way. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm going to think about this idea of embracing mistakes and apply it to my life. It's like, I'm going to practice it like through a craft, through an art and through a craft. I'm going to practice these lessons. And doing that, they start to integrate into my life. So it's like a beautiful experiential embodied approach. Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, I was just talking to a coaching client yesterday about how it's really common for people to get stuck in their heads. You know, we are in a very cerebral culture, right? In fact, some people don't even know they have bodies, you know? They're just in their head 24/7, which sounds super painful to me, but okay.
Right.
If that works for you. But this client was saying, I get so stuck, you know, that I can't even take action. And I think that's pretty common.
Yeah, I have this joke that I always tell my level 1 students at the last class. You know, we're going to talk about, you know, we recap the class, debrief. Oh, are you there? Did you freeze? Oh, no.
Oh, shoot. It looks like I did freeze. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Hopefully it will unfreeze. I don't know how to fix it.
Mistakes. Yeah, I'll just justify you, Sue. Oh gosh, Sue, yes, you're really taking me in. Yeah, but I have this thing that I usually do at the end of my classes where we like recap, debrief, kind of talk about the experience, and then I say, oh, we lost her. There she is again.
I thought maybe if I took myself out of the stream, it would fix it.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
Keep on going.
We continue. Okay. So I always say, you know, what's next for folks? And people usually recount like, oh, well, I'm quitting my job, or I'm breaking up with my partner, or I'm moving, or I'm coming out, you know, and they so they bring up all these like transformational things, like, but it's all usually coming from like this sense of like, I'm done pretending to be somebody I'm not, you know, like I'm done dealing. I'm done just like putting myself in situations that don't align with who I am. Right. And it's just a really beautiful thing to watch. I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm just like, oh, improv is just so magical. Right. But when you break it down, what it is you're just practicing being who you are. You're actively practicing being who you truly are. And that's addictive in a good way. You know what I mean? Like it's addictive. Like I can't not be who I truly am anymore. Yeah. Uh-oh. She's gone now. Because I'm talking by myself. Hello.
I really am here. I am. I'm I am frozen. I am frozen. I am a robot. I am just a picture of myself. That is so bizarre. Gosh. I hope it resolves itself because I'm having so much fun. I don't want to leave you yet.
I don't want to leave you.
Get through all my questions.
Yeah, well, I can talk if you can you I can talk further if you want to ask questions.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Still frozen. Gosh darn it.
Oh,
Well, we'll just, have to have a part two. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I know.
Because it's just frozen. There's nothing I can do about it, it seems. How about this? How about one last question before we sign off due to technical difficulties? What gives you hope?
Oh, what gives me hope? What gives me hope? Wow. That's such an interesting question. Yeah, I think what gives me hope is when people, back to this like embodied approach. It's like when you just show up and do it, like there's something really powerful about like doing something, like whether it, in improv, it's like we might not be really doing it, we're pretending, right? But when you maybe play a character that is somebody that you want to be, or you're doing an activity that you hope to do in real life, that by practicing in it, it lets your brain accept that it's possible, right? So I have a lot of faith in practice, that if we can embody it and practice it, it's possible for the future. And I think that gives me hope, like just the courage to try something in the pretend space is a really beautiful, hopeful thing. Yeah.
Oh, I love that answer. That's awesome.
It's kind of like like when you envision something for yourself, but to take it one step further to actually practice it, Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Well, I hope you will come back for a part two. And I'm sorry about the technical difficulties.
Okay.
But it's been delightful.
Yeah.
And you're so fun to hang out with. I might have to come play with you over at Leela.
Yes, please do. And like, yeah, we were supposed to schedule a friendship show today. I usually do my friendship shows on Tuesdays, but I'm not going to say I have to, I get to do a COVID compliance officer training today.
Awesome.
Yes, because our space is reopening on June 3rd for in-person classes. I want to make sure we're all COVID compliant. We're going to all be masked at least till the end of June. See what the CDC says after that. And then everybody needs to be vaccinated in order to play. So please go get your vaccinations. So that's really exciting for us. Yeah.
How cool. Yeah. Awesome. And then we're going to do the friendship show next week, right?
Yeah, we're going to do the friendship
show.
So Sue and I, the friendship show is a space where, we can connect one-on-one with friends, explore a facet of friendship, and then improvise a little bit about it. So we get to play next week.
Yay. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Jill.
Yes, thank you, Sue. Take care, everybody.